This video is brought to you by Ground News. Stick around to hear more about the special offer they're providing to the entire Upper Echelon community. Alright, today's video is about a topic that most people think is true already. They feel like it has to be true in some capacity, but we never really had any sort of stone cold indication or concrete proof. Everyone watching this probably had the same kind of thought at one point or another in time. But just to be sure, how many of you watching right now had a moment pass by, let's say recently, where the things you talked about privately suddenly showed up as advertisements? It can honestly happen with anything. My personal anecdote here is that one day I was talking to someone about how they'd been on a hot air balloon ride and said, I've always wanted to do that, but I never have. And then immediately afterwards, I got not one, but two different advertisements for hot air balloon tours, which I'd never gotten previously. Obviously, that freaked me out, and the common assumption here is they're listening to us, because after you talk about something, it very often shows up in the form of advertising. But today, I want to look deeper at why that's actually probably true right now. Or if not right now, which is hard for me to believe, it will be very soon. Now, to be clear, advertising itself is an extremely sophisticated process these days. A great example would be Target, which had a bit of a scandal in 2022 when it supposedly predicted that a teen was pregnant and subsequently began advertising maternity clothing and other pregnancy products to her before her father had any idea about the pregnancy. But a much more important set of facts in the story are the quotes given by Andrew Pohl, a Target statistician, when speaking to the New York Times. Quote, Pohl ran test after test analyzing the data, and before long some useful patterns emerged. Lotions, for example. Lots of people buy lotion, but one of Pohl's colleagues noticed that women on the baby registry were buying larger quantities of unscented lotion around the beginning of their second trimester. Another analyst noted that sometime in the first 20 weeks, pregnant women loaded up on supplements like calcium, magnesium, and zinc. Many shoppers purchase soap and cotton balls, but when someone suddenly starts buying lots of scent-free soap and extra big bags of cotton balls, in addition to hand sanitizers and washcloths, it signals they could be getting close to their delivery date, end quote. There's more, such as an example of how Target could determine with nearly a 90% accuracy rate when the actual due date of a pregnancy would be based on the shopping habits of a customer's unique ID, but the point here is to demonstrate that advertising is extremely well developed when it comes to user prediction and data extrapolation. Just to emphasize that fact here, if you know that a woman is pregnant, you can already advertise a massive number of relevant products to her with far higher success rates than some sort of random shotgun approach. And if you can narrow down her due date in particular, you can then refine the mechanism even further. Imagine post-delivery, you start advertising all sorts of knickknacks and other little gadgets to keep the child occupied or silent in their crib. Or maybe you start pushing healthy alternatives to traditional baby formula. It's obviously not perfect, but when you compare that sort of advertising to a standard mechanism of just trying to target 30-something-year-old women, generally speaking, it's quite obviously more effective, which is why large retail companies have entire departments purely dedicated to this kind of research. Honestly, it's a no-brainer. This is the logical usage of data when you have it if your fiscal imperative is to make more money every day compared to what you made yesterday. But what if I told you that the long-suspected, often joked about atmosphere, the one where you say something and then suddenly you get advertisements for that very specific thing everywhere you go because your phone or your TV or your little Amazon Echo Dot in your home is directly listening to you, wasn't just a funny offhanded comment or a vague sense of suspicion? What if I told you it was entirely real? What if I told you that major companies, media companies, are now actively promoting or selling that functionality? And what if I told you that they're doing this while trying to hide it from the public? Because listening in on everything you say through all of your devices for the purpose of advertising is a cyberpunk dystopian nightmare that makes people very uncomfortable. Speaking of advertising, there's a really interesting situation unfolding right now where Elon Musk deliberately told advertisers to F off on a public stage, but now he's suing them for boycotting Twitter and refusing to advertise there. I think that's kind of hilarious, but it's also a perfect example of the value provided by today's video sponsor, which is Ground News. Ground News provides a media aggregate service which cuts through bias and provides as much information as possible to you, the readers. Gathering everything in one place is certainly useful with a clear system of marking, bias, corporate ownership, and distribution of coverage. But for the Elon Musk example, we can see just how skewed things actually get. On the left, they emphasize confrontational rhetoric, like now it's war, to paint Musk as the bad guy. While on the right, they focus on a shadowy corporate alliance as if advertisers not working with a man who told them to F off on purpose is a free speech issue. Regardless of where you fall on the political spectrum, Ground News provides valuable tools to understand a hectic media environment, doing an excellent job of avoiding intrinsic bias. They don't push one particular ethos or perspective, but they do offer excellent tools for the evaluation of breaking news in a world where most of what you read is designed to have some sort of influence on you. I both use and recommend the service myself, especially the My News Bias feature. that they provide, which will outright show you whether or not you are perpetuating an echo chamber for yourself. It's an incredibly valuable thing to be aware of. If you click the link down below in the description or scan the QR code right now to sign up, you'll get 40% off the Vantage plan. Again, link down below in the description, ground.news/Echelon for 40% off a Vantage plan today. Big thank you to Ground News for sponsoring the channel. Okay, let's get to it. This right here is Cox Media Group, CMG, which is jointly owned by Cox Enterprises and Apollo Global Management. Now, if you head over to their website, you can find this, which is a list of their corporate brands under the same banner. And on that list is something called Cox Media Group Local Solutions, which is the advertising arm of the company. Well, Cox Media Group Local Solutions also has their own website, and on this website there used to be a page titled, "It's True, Your Devices Are Listening to You," which referred to what they call active listening, which is an advertising service where your phone, your smart TV, or any other active microphone tech product in your home is used to spy on you, thereby giving them the capability to, quote, know exactly when someone is in the market for your services in real time, giving you a significant advantage over your competitors, end quote. Now, it's worth noting that this is an archive of the website because after this page ended up making its way into the public eye, briefly, they pulled it offline. My guess is that this page was never meant to even be accessible publicly, at least not yet anyway. But let me just read a few more paragraphs right now to really emphasize the atmosphere. Quote, "With active listening, CMG can now use voice data to target your advertising to the exact people you are looking for. Imagine this. What could it do for your business if you were able to target potential clients or customers who are using terms like this in their everyday conversations? The car lease is ending in a month. We need to have a plan. We need to get serious about planning for retirement. A minivan would be perfect for us. This AC is on its last leg. Do I see mold on the ceiling? We need a better mortgage rate," end quote. Further down, quote again, "We know this sounds like something from the future, but we are there. We can customize your campaign to listen for any keywords/targets relevant to your business. Here is how we do it." And lastly, "We know what you are thinking. Is this legal? Yes, it is totally legal for phones and devices to listen to you. That's because consumers usually give consent when accepting terms and conditions of software updates or app downloads," end quote. Yeah, that's pretty definitive, as is the fact that they pulled this offline as soon as anyone began paying attention to it, but more recently obtained by 404 Media, who do excellent work, by the way. I'll leave a link to their publication down below. The actual pitch deck for this product has been leaked, and yeah, it is precisely what it sounds like. Here's a couple snippets of the pitch deck itself. Quote, "Smart devices capture real-time intent data by listening to our conversations. Consumers leave a data trail based on their conversations and online behavior," as well as further down. "Now that preparation is done, active listening begins in your target geo, and buyer behavior is detected across 470 plus different data sources. As qualified consumers are detected, a 360-degree analysis of past behaviors of each potential customer occurs to get an accurate timing and placement prediction. With the audience information collected and compartmentalized, an encrypted evergreen audience list is created. This campaign list is then uploaded to any major advertising platform," end quote. There it is. The dark reality of advertising is that we live in a world right now where the only question these companies are asking is how to avoid triggering paranoia in their own customers. They're not even asking, how do we make these ads more effective anymore? They're asking, how do we disguise these ads to make them less alarming to the targets? Circling back to the piece about Target the retailer, with statements from statistician Andrew Pohl, quote, "If we send someone a catalog and say, 'Congratulations on your first child,' and they've never told us they're pregnant, that's going to make some people uncomfortable. We are very conservative about compliance with all privacy laws. But even if you're following the law, you can do things where people get queasy." Reading on, "We started mixing in all these ads for things we knew pregnant women would never buy, so the baby ads looked random. We put an ad for a lawnmower next to diapers. We put a coupon for wine glasses next to infant clothes. That way, it looked like all the products were chosen by chance. We found out that as long as a pregnant woman thinks she hasn't been spied on, she'll use the coupons. She just assumes that everyone else on her block got the same mailer for diapers and cribs. As long as we don't spook her, it works," end quote. It is insane to me to think that the question has now definitively shifted into how do we avoid alarming our audience as opposed to how do we make these ads more targeted and successful? Because the dark reality of advertising is that they are so good at doing it now, they have to pull back or they make people paranoid. Like I said earlier, everyone watching this has probably had a moment at one time or another where they felt like something they spoke about was suddenly shown to them by Facebook or Amazon or Google or some other online advertising giant. But thanks to a leaked pitch deck from Cox Media Group, CMG, as well as a now archived version of their local solutions website, we can see that the capability of advertising firms to listen in on our direct conversations, sort them by keyword, and target products or services to specific individuals who spoke about something in the private of their own home is a full-blown current reality. On the one hand, that can obviously be somewhat helpful at certain times, considering the fact that products and services could use that capability to step in and remedy problems. Like if your phone hears you complaining about a leaky or broken faucet and then advertises a plumber for you. But on the other, it's a dystopian cyberpunk nightmare because profit-driven entities are not fixating on how best to use this and help people. They're fixating on how to extract as much money as possible. And when listening to your customers in the private of their everyday lives, that capability goes parabolic. At the end of the day, I can't say with certainty how widespread this advertising technique really is, but I can say that the common atmosphere of, I just talked about that, why am I suddenly getting advertisements for it? Maybe my phone is listening to me, is built on a whole lot more than just common coincidence or conspiracy. It is a real thing. That's it. If you want to support the channel, check out the links down below, a special VPN deal, the video sponsor, Ground News, of course, locals and Patreon, or YouTube memberships, and more, but I'll cut it there and stop rambling. As always, thank you all for watching. Question everything, and have a nice night.